Come back to our top story now. The 5 remaining Bali Nine members have spent their first night in Australia as free men. Anthony Albanese says there was no payback deal either. Joining me live is former Labor Senator Graham Richardson. Good to see you, Richo. Thanks for joining us. So what's your reaction, and were you surprised that Anthony Albanese was able to get Indonesia's new president to agree to release them?
I was. It's I think a great tribute to Anthony that he could do it, because if you remember back, the Indonesians were very up in arms about all this. It was a big deal, and to think we could get them all out, I think is terrific. I'm happy for them. I mean, they made a stupid mistake, silly mistake, but they paid very heavily for it.
This has been a thorn in the side of Australia-Indonesia relations. There was no prisoner swap. It wasn't transactional, according to the government, no payback deal. But this release came at a political risk to the Indonesian president. Do you think that we are being told the whole story?
Look, I do. I think it's hard to hide the stories in this sort of circumstance. So I'll trust Stalbo and believe we know it all.
What does this compassionate release of the Bali Nine, now 5, tell us about Australia's current relationship with Indonesia? Well,
it tells us that it's very good, but it also tells us that the Indonesians probably understand now that they've got to be a little looser in the way they apply their own laws at times, because that strictness doesn't sit well with Western values, and they are part of the West now, whether they like that term or not, they are.
Yeah, and they came home without any fanfare, and that was by design as well.
Yeah, that was and exactly the right thing to do. You're not trying to embarrass anybody. You just want to get this thing through and as quickly and simply and smoothly as possible. And that's exactly what's happened. I think, it doesn't matter where you sit in politics, you've got to give Albo a very big tick for this.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers, he's just announced the appointments to the RBA Special Rate Setting Board. He says it was an extensive consultation process, even though the reforms came without the support of the coalition, and that this was, he says, all about modernising the RBA. What's your reaction to that?
Well, look, I think Chalmers has done a terrific job, and I think you've got to let him have a go at this. I mean, I'd call this an experiment. Let's just all have a look at how his picks go and how the Reserve Bank performs over time. Because I think the Reserve Bank has not performed brilliantly in the last, say, 5 years. I'm looking forward to it improving with these new appointments.
Do you have any thoughts about the outgoing Victorian Treasurer Tim Pallas, who says he's stepping down?
Tim is a great friend of mine, so I'm obviously biased. I think he's a terrific fella. I think he's given his whole life over to public service, and I think I wish him a very, very happy retirement.
You say he's a great friend. Did it come as a surprise, or did you already know that this was kind of...
No, it came as a surprise. I didn't know, and he is a good friend of mine. But, I think sometimes it's best to keep these things to yourself, therefore you can go in your own time, on your own terms.
The Prime Minister is among many dignitaries to lay flowers at Martin Place to mark the 10 years since the Lindt Cafe siege. How do you reflect on that dark day in Australia's history?
Well, I was in the Channel 7 building, so I was very close to it, and I think this is it's good to remember it, because it's as close as we really come to terrorism in Australia, and this bloke was apart from being a nutter. He was a very dangerous man, and I thought it was terrific. Now, there's a lot of controversy at the time about the way in which it was handled, and I don't think you're ever going to get a verdict on that about whether it was right or whether it was wrong. But gee whiz, it caused a hell of a storm at the time.
Graham Richardson, if I don't see you again before Christmas, have a good one, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
And the very same to you and yours.